সেপ্টেম্বর সারা দেশ থেকে আসা প্রচুর প্রাথমিক পর্যায়ে স্টার্টআপ সংস্থা কলকাতায় একত্রিত হয়েছিল মূলধন জোগাড়ের উদ্দেশ্যে। এদের লক্ষ্য $30,000 থেকে $5 মিলিয়ন পরিসরে মূলধন জোগাড়। সারা দেশ থেকে আসা একাধিক ভিসি, ফ্যামিলি অফিস, অ্যাঞ্জেল নেটওয়ার্ক, HNI এর সামনে এই সমস্ত স্টার্টআপ সংস্থারা তাদের ব্যবসায়িক প্রস্তাব নিয়ে হাজির হন। এই অনুষ্ঠানে কেন্দ্রীয় সড়ক পরিবহন মন্ত্রী শ্রী নিতিন গডকরি, চেয়ারম্যান অম্বুজা নেওটিয়া গ্রুপ শ্রী হর্ষবর্ধন নেওটিয়া, ডিরেক্টর কোটাক মাহিন্দ্রা অ্যাসেট ম্যানেজমেন্ট কোম্পানি শ্রী নীলেশ শ, বিখ্যাত লেখক শ্রী চেতন ভগত বক্তব্য রাখেন। ইউনিকর্ন স্পিনির প্রতিষ্ঠাতা মিস্টার নীরজ সিংয়ের সঙ্গে একটি ফায়ারসাইড চ্যাটও হয়। দেশের বিভিন্ন প্রান্ত থেকে 537টিরও বেশি অনন্য আবেদন জমা পড়ায় অনুষ্ঠানটি বিশেষ মাত্রা পায় এবং সফল হয়। 13টিরও বেশি সাইন অফের সঙ্গে সাকুল্যে 230 কোটি টাকার তহবিল জোগাড়ের জন্য এই সমস্ত স্টার্টআপ সংস্থা সচেষ্ট হয়েছিল। এখানে 80টিরও বেশি জাতীয়ভাবে স্বীকৃত পরামর্শদাতা ছিলেন। সমস্ত ফাইনালিস্টদের জন্য $1 লক্ষেরও বেশি মূল্যের আইটি ক্রেডিট, HR, মার্কেটিং এবং কমপ্লায়েন্সের সুবিধাজনক ইকোসিস্টেম তৈরির প্রতিশ্রুতি দেওয়া হয়েছে। ফ্রি ফ্লো এবং ভেলোসিটি 1 সফলভাবে 16 সেপ্টেম্বর কলকাতায় এই তহবিল সংগ্রহের ইভেন্টের আয়োজন করেছে, যাতে প্রাথমিক পর্যায়ে স্টার্টআপগুলি $30,000 থেকে $5 মিলিয়ন বন্ধনীতে মূলধন সংগ্রহ করতে সক্ষম হয়। CII, YIICAI, ইনস্টিটিউট অফ চার্টার্ড অ্যাকাউন্টেন্টস অফ ইন্ডিয়া, পূর্ব ভারত আঞ্চলিক কাউন্সিলের সহযোগিতায় WBIDC, ওয়েস্ট বেঙ্গল ইন্ডাস্ট্রিয়াল ডেভেলপমেন্ট কর্পোরেশন দ্বারা সমর্থিত এই বছরের ওয়াইফাই 2022 পেশ করেছে। একটি অনন্য আর্থিক কনক্লেভ যা বাংলায় বিদ্যমান শিল্পগুলিকে আরও এগিয়ে নিয়ে যাওয়ার প্রতিশ্রুতি দেয় এবং স্টার্টআপ এবং ভেঞ্চার ক্যাপিটালিস্টদের জন্য একটি লঞ্চপ্যাড প্রদান করে। অংশগ্রহণকারী সংস্থারা ফিনটেক, AI&ML, LOT, এডটেক, মেডটেক, IIoT, ব্লকচেন, ওয়েব 3.0, গেমিং, মিডিয়াটেক, B2B, SaaS, D2C, ভার্চুয়াল রিয়ালিটি, ই-কমার্স এবং আরও অন্যান্য সেক্টর থেকে ছিল। উল্লেখ্য, এখানে জীবনের সকল স্তরের ব্যক্তিদের জন্য শিল্প, ব্যবসার মালিক, পেশাদার, তরুণ, প্রাপ্তবয়স্ক এবং গৃহকর্মী সকলের জন্যই কিছু না কিছু সুযোগ ছিল। 6টি ভিসি, 2টি ফ্যামিলি অফিস, 6টি অ্যাঞ্জেল নেটওয়ার্ক, 3টি ডিল প্ল্যাটফর্ম এবং 8টি HNI ও UHNI এর উপস্থিতি এই ইভেন্টটিকে নতুন উচ্চতায় নিয়ে গেছে। শীর্ষ 30টি স্টার্টআপ রুদ্ধোদ্ধার পিচিং সেশনে অংশগ্রহণের সুযোগ পেয়েছে। ভিসি, মাইক্রো ভিসি, অ্যাঞ্জেল নেটওয়ার্ক, HNI এবং ফ্যামিলি অফিসের ফান্ডের সাথে। ফ্রি ফ্লো হলো একটি ভেঞ্চার স্টুডিও যার একটি ভেঞ্চার বিল্ডিং পদ্ধতি রয়েছে। এটি একটি সরকার অনুমোদিত সংস্থা, ইনভেস্ট ইন্ডিয়ার একটি জাতীয়ভাবে স্বীকৃত অংশীদার এবং 21টি রাজ্যে স্টার্টআপ ইন্ডিয়া যাত্রায় প্রাথমিক অংশীদার এবং সুবিধাদাতা, এবং 2019 সালে এই সরকারি উদ্যোগের সময় 60,000টিরও বেশি ব্যবসায়িক পরিকল্পনার রূপায়ণ এবং বিস্তারে সাহায্য করেছিল। এই অনুষ্ঠানে আমরা পেয়েছিলাম ফ্রি ফ্লো সংস্থার ফাউন্ডার এবং কো-ফাউন্ডারকে। এবার তাদের বক্তব্য শুনে নেওয়া যাক।
This is basically about the primary startups raising early stage funding.
Yes, so as we all know, there is a very, very strong movement towards new startups in India, and there are a lot of these young people from experience who are coming into the field and kind of starting their own disruptions, starting their own companies, creating newer experiences for people, solving more problems. So the idea was to bring something like that to Calcutta, which we've been doing for a couple of years now, and I kind of presented us an opportunity wherein startups from all across the country could come in, kind of become a part of the mainstream. Startups from Calcutta, East India, which is so-called considered कि यहाँ startups नहीं होते हैं, या there are very few startups who essentially succeed from these grounds, have all applied. So in about 15 days, there were about 583 applications, and 35 startups kind of made it here, and they are raising funds from this particular event. They have got commitments, they have got it from various kinds of investors. So investments, opportunities, startups and engagement, that is what is being achieved.
This is the 7th year, 8th year, or which year is this?
So why I used to do these events for almost previously 6 years. This is their 7th edition. This was the first time that they were doing a startup specific plug-in to this also. So beyond conferences, beyond roundtables, beyond just the keynotes, there was a very clear-cut focus on outputs. Focus on startups coming, meeting investors, creating newer opportunities for themselves, and raising capital. So this is for the first time, and that's called Wi-Fi Next. Yeah.
It's happening in Kolkata. The startups have come from all over the country.
Yes. So there has been at least 16 states who applied. There were applications from 16 different states, and there have been commitments to startups that have come from more than 9 states. So it is a proper exchange, proper confluence of various cultures coming together, various business models coming together, and they've been able to sell each other also. It's not just about the investors saying yes to them. It's also about corporates saying yes to them. It's also about customers liking what they're bringing to the table. So startups Bhilai se aaye hain, startups Delhi se hain, startup Cochin se hain, Hyderabad se hain, Bangalore se hain, Pune se hain, Nashik se hain. So all across the country, so log, they've all come to Calcutta, and they've all come to a very specific reason of showing that there is enough opportunity in the city.
There will be some networking within the startups as well.
So there has been a very solid effort put for the ecosystem to understand itself, for the startups to actually engage with each other. They have actually gone ahead and had policymakers contributing a lot. So there was a government plenary that happened. Mr. Nitingadkari is also going to address them in a while from now, and he's wanting to give them opportunities with the central government. All these startups, all these young innovations that have come in, how can they plug into these particular resources that the Government of India and the Government of West Bengal are creating, and how could it be very, very effective? That's the overall motto. Yeah, so the WBIDC is completely supporting the whole program, and Invest India, which is a Government of India enterprise, is also part of it. So it's a very unique event wherein both the governments have kind of come together. They're wanting to foster innovation, they're wanting to foster disruption, they're wanting to foster an ecosystem that does not exactly exist right now. So, yeah, that's... So, a total of 35 startups were selected out of an application base of 583. And 583 applications were from 16 different states at different stages. So, somebody was raising just the first $1 million, to somebody was raising $3.5–4 million, and somebody was just raising $20,000. So at various stages, they came to raise various kinds of amounts. Yeah. 16 states. Aqib Hussain, co-founder Free Flow Ventures.
Suraj Juneja, again Free Flow Ventures co-founder. Yeah.
How is Free Flow affiliated with this?
So Free Flow has actually curated this entire program with young Indians. So all the startups that we have called, all the investors that were invited, how the different sessions are going to happen, how different sessions and different tracks. For example, there were 4 different tracks of startups that are raising different amounts of money or in different categories. So the entire curation has happened via Free Flow Ventures because now we have an entire system or ecosystem in the whole country. So startups who apply for such kind of pitches or such kind of events are immense in number. For example, for this startup event, about 1,000 applications plus would have come to us. But 1,000 se 30 mein lana is quite a job also. So we have relevant juries for it, we have relevant softwares for it, tech for it, where these people come, they are selected in the right way, and then they come here, pitch and raise the right amount of funds. So that's the main key.
Is there any mechanism to groom these startups for pitching and all?
So every such event is essentially a culmination of application, nomination, grooming, shortlist, vetting, investment raise, and then follow-ups. So the story actually starts from today. So the number of commitments that have happened, we make it a point that one, we put our own skin in the game. We invest with a lot of these particular investors. We kind of take a lot of bandwidth in dedicating these investors towards their commitment and getting this to a closure. Because the most important thing is that it's not just about that commitment, that, okay, I'm interested in your model, but it's also about how do they take it to a particular closure and fast. Because for startups, capital, if not delivered at the right time, is no capital at all. So that's what we are chasing at Free Flow, and we sometimes, beyond what Suraj just said, we sometimes actually go ahead and invest directly in the startups if there is a thesis match and if there is a mandate match. So that's also been one of our roles here. We have doubled up as investors while organizing the whole event. So yeah.
Total volume of commitment, investment commitment received.
It's a bit early to commit the exact commitments, but what was at stake, it was at about 196 crores across the 30 startups that were pitching. And from people raising anywhere up to 30 crores to people raising as small as 28.5 lakh rupees. The range was very big, but the total raise was about 195 crores. In a couple of days, I can give you an exact number on what the commitment has been like and how are we chasing it.
VC, angel investors, and then
It kind of includes a plethora of 5-6 different kinds of investors. It includes venture capitalists, it includes angel investors, it includes family offices, it includes HNIs and ultra HNIs, and it includes syndicates. So nowadays it has become a thing. Strategic syndicates have also invested on these startups. So there are 6 different ways in which the investors came in, and there were a total of 47 investors who came from all across the country to just support the event. So I'm very thankful to them to choose Calcutta as their territory, and they did not even bat an eyelid. They were like, "You are inviting us to Calcutta, we are there." So yeah, that's how.
This first time innovation. This event first time.
As the startup plugin, yes, for the first time ever. There hasn't been any startup plugin before to the YI events. It was called Wi-Fi Next, and we did something similar last year. This year also with PRSI last month, which was called Flow Edge. So yeah, it's something that we are making a very concerted effort in bringing enough investors to Bengal, bringing enough different startups to Bengal so that there can be an exchange. There can be enough amount of opportunities created. So yeah, pretty much the first time.
Well, this will be the first time you're organizing this kind of event. You have been into this for quite some time now. So do you see any perceptible change in the trend, the way startup ecosystem is growing or coming up?
Definitely there's a change. In fact, especially for this event where Young Indians is involved, you will see a lot of investors who've come in who perhaps will be investing in startups for the first time. So there's a huge, it's not just about bringing startups and giving them a platform to invest. Now it's also our responsibility to bring in the investors and show them that startups are a good asset class to invest in. I think Young Indians has got that extra strength for us, where loads of these investors are come, they are learning. How do you invest in a startup? There are so many different ways to invest in a startup also. Like Akib was just telling you that there are syndicates, there are different forms of investing. You can invest in a fund, you can invest directly. When you invest directly also, there are 4-5 ways to invest. You can do one part now, one part after the KPI has been made. Or you can have RBFs, which is revenue-based financing. Or you can have safe notes, which is okay, after a certain time, then the valuation will be decided. And so on and so forth. So most of these investors here, very frankly speaking, do not have awareness of all of these instruments. They don't know how to invest in a startup. So I think that's also equally important, so that both the investor and the startup, they come on the same page and it becomes easier for this entire ecosystem to grow faster and better. So that's one of the key things that has come from this event.
This investing in startups is actually coming up as an alternative investment tool.
It's an art. So yeah.
Plus the unit innovator or the unit startup owner who was running for funds to Bangalore or who was running for funds to Hyderabad or Pune now sees that there are events, there are platforms, there are companies, there are venture builders who are wanting to do that very thing in Calcutta itself. So they're not pushing them beyond boundaries, they're not pushing them into newer territories. So the idea is to kind of continue this within Calcutta and kind of make Calcutta relevant again, because the whole idea is this is where it kind of started. We have always believed and celebrated our past. It's about creating the new instances. So these innovators are coming from very remote parts of the state. There have been people who have come from remotest of North Bengal. There have been people who have come from Northeast, who are competing with the likes of people who have come from Bangalore and Pune and Hyderabad and Gurgaon. So that kind of gives them confidence. So that has been the perceptible change. Investor education, awareness, startups having confidence in staying back in Calcutta and yet wanting to push their aspirations, yet wanting to push their envelope of what they can achieve. So yeah, that's been it.
Last question, what next? After the successful completion of this event, do you have anything at the back of your mind?
So we would have a whole bouquet of things that are at the back of our minds. There are multiple follow-ups that we are doing to this. There is a dedicated CCU Fest that we are designing right now, which would happen in October. We are working very closely with a few governments to bring in, state governments as well as international governments, to bring in some policy level interventions for unit startups. And we are investing aggressively. We are finding models wherein we can actually go ahead and put in our own capital and not just ask people to put in capital, put in our own skin in the game and tell them that this really works. This is an asset class to be behind right now. So yeah, that's all that's up.
Thank you. Raja. Thank you.